the hardest working podcast in Portland, Oregon, man.
Play
No.
game.
What's up, you guys? It's Cartier Bob. Welcome to the Play No Games podcast /
Show. Oh my God.
What? Who are you?
Oh, I'm Arthur Dixon.
Good Lord. Shit. See what
I got
happened?
distracted with that ugly ass name, Cartier Bob, you know.
It's Bartier. Oh. It's not Bartier Bob. Stop saying that because this is a high rise of gang activity going on.
You know, he
It's
got that
Cartier
red
Bob.
sweater on again.
This is
red.
burgundy. This is very burgundy.
Still red.
Shout out to
Red
Ron
is
Burgundy.
red is a form of burgundy. Well, burgundy is a form of red.
If you like what we're doing, please comment, like, subscribe. Please, furthermore, what really would help us, because we're trying to continually grow, donate. $ Hero Bob. And also, we're just trying to put you on a higher vibration, higher frequency,
Uh-oh.
help you out in your self-growth, help you out in your relationship, and help you out in them social situations. So, without further ado,
You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's that part of the segment where I take over the mic for a little bit. You know, you play no games with. Segment's called Play No Games. This has been absolutely terrible. But you know, it could be positive, negative, informative, anything you like to know, just say. And all you gotta say is I'm ready to play no games about this. And since there's only two of us today, Roberto, what you playing no games with?
Ooh, you know what I'm playing no games about? I'm not playing no games about. This is gonna be a very Avenger-oriented type of fucking show. I think his name is Chris Hemsworth. He played Captain America. I knew it was a Chris. Say what's his name again? Chris Evans.
Evans.
Oh, Chris Evans. Okay.
Oh my God.
Shout out to Chris Evans, the real person who played Captain America, because he got this kind of stuck in my head besides the other work that I'm doing in my life. He said like 2 years ago that he is going to be more intentful on, I think he was like looking for like a wife, and then Lizzo slid in his DMs and all this other stuff, and there was a whole kerfunkle about that. And I'm not going to lie, I'm like in that energy. So I'm playing no games about not like finding a wife, but just finding a partner. Because I don't want to get married tomorrow. But like, I want to find a partner. I think I want to be more intentional with that energy. Like, I've always had it, but like,
Yeah.
I feel like as dudes, dudes struggle with saying stuff like that because,
Fear
yeah, it's fear. And then you don't want to look like a goofball.
or a chump.
Exactly. I feel like a lot of people can get that misconstrued. And I think in this phase of my life, I've been walking towards just being more of who I am on the inside. And as I am with my age, I'm not going to lie, I think that's what I want. Obviously, I'm not going to rush that, but I'm like, I'm going to be more intentional, even more intentional than I have been before, being like, that's what I actually really want. But like, obviously, if other things populate, I'm going to be an adult about stuff, but I'm also going to be like, what's my next 3 to 4 years looking like? I really want to establish something with someone.
It's dope. I'm proud of you, Robert. I'm proud of you finally giving up the streets. I'm proud of you. Make my heart skip a beat a little bit over there, Robert. You know, something to be motivated about.
Cartier is still doing what he needs to do.
Stay out the streets, Robert.
I'm not in the streets. I'm being an adult. I'm being an adult. That's what I'm playing no games about.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm playing no games about this weather, man. My God.
The weather, huh?
Man, can we like make up our mind, please? Like how we go from sunny to pouring down raining to super windy to sunny to rainy. Like I can understand we in Oregon it's rainy season, But like, can we just rain for a chunk of time and then let it be? Because I'm tired of getting pissed on 1 minute and then you know the sun come out to try and dry you off. Then it gets super windy. You get cold as hell the next minute. You know, maybe I just need a vacation to a warm weather. I think that's what it is. That's what it calls for. So.
Y'all in this weather. You know what? I'm calling people out.
Huh.
I'm calling y'all out. I don't think it's the weather.
What is
I
it?
think you ain't playing no games about the weather. I think you needed more time to think, so you chose the weather.
No, I really am upset about the weather. I don't like rain. I'm not a rain person. I don't like cold either. I don't. Truly don't. I love the snow, but as soon as I get wet, I'm done with the snow. It's a wrap. Like, I'm done.
Like a cat.
No, like a dog.
Dogs enjoy the snow.
No, not all dogs.
Majority of dogs.
I enjoy the snow. I just don't like getting wet. There's a difference.
Hit the button. All right. So I definitely think it's to be a perfect time for us to kick up our very first segment. And I think our very first segment, we want to be gentle with this, even though it's been out for almost a month.
Really? The 7th? It came out on the 7th?
Okay, 3 weeks. Almost a month. It's approaching the shortest month of the year. All right. Black.
No.
Wakanda
Forever?
Get a close up. The Black Panther. Yeah. We're gonna talk about the Black Panther too. We want to be careful, delicate. Obviously, I've been watching a lot of videos. Spoiler alert! If you haven't seen it, we're gonna be talking about some concepts, and someone here hasn't seen it, and we're not gonna be too much of a jackass and spoil big things. But I think there's some major topics we can talk about, because I actually will agree with my boy Andrew. Andrew's like, if it's really good, it shouldn't matter about the spoilers. I disagree with that a little bit, because it takes away from if you're watching things chronologically. But I agree with that shit though.
Huh? You disagree, but you agree?
Yeah, I agree to disagree. I accept some of what he's saying, but not all.
Oh, okay. There you go. It makes more sense.
It always made sense. Anywho, I'm just curious. What was your first reaction? Because you've seen it more recently than me. I've been off of it.
I thought aspects of it were good. Some of the aspects of it were forced.
Interesting.
I personally didn't really like the ending. It was kind of corny, but I think there's like pieces of it like that were cool, of course. There's moments of it that were really slow. But overall, I liked the movie. Once I got more in depth into the movie and got more of an understanding of the movie, and there's so many history pieces in the movie, and like not just like history from the other movie, but history and like real reality history pieces in the movie. For me, it like made me like the movie 10 times more. And what?
No, I'm listening.
You looked at me like you were about to say something.
I was, but I also want to finish.
So yeah, for me overall, it was a good movie because of the historical context behind it. But I just felt like there was some pieces of it that like were forced into the movie, or like shortened to make the movie so it wasn't as long.
I'm curious, such as
the driving scene. So in the driving scene of the movie, it felt like very like, oh, these are the vehicles, we gotta go, and you're at the bridge.
Oh, come on.
There wasn't like, I felt like in the first one, that driving scene, it was very similar to the first one. First things first. And the second thing was, it felt very like, let's just get through this part so we can move on. And that for me was like, dang, I think they could have took advantage of this driving scene a little bit more. I don't know. So that was like one of my first pieces too. So
Okay. I want to say the Black Panther movie, Black BP2, was I came into it, and this is not a spoiler because you already know this, that Shuri is the Black Panther. You know this. You know this. You know this. It's in the. Yeah. Okay. I was about to say. Let's just say this because I was actually having a lot of conversations with people about this, where like I didn't have a problem with Shuri being the Black Panther. It was like we got to make this make sense because I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
When we look at the MCU and where they're trying to go, because representation matters, I was like, all right, we lost as a black man. We lost like our like staple. Be like, we can look at Chadwick, and it's not like I had a problem with a woman becoming the Black Panther because if you read the comics, Shuri does become the Black Panther, for extended period of time and things like that. But it's kind of like, Chadwick, before he passed, he was like, this role is bigger than me, like, let's recast. And, like, I was down for that, where I'm like, we got to maybe in the multiverse bring Michael B back, all that other stuff, make it make sense. Mm-hmm. And the reason why is because a lot of boys, a lot of different people getting to see just like a black man in that figure in that role, because he was displaying masculinity, but it wasn't toxic. Now, the reason why, and people will be like, what about the new Captain America? Blah, 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 blah. Let me tell you, as black men, we don't see ourselves being like, what's his name? We don't see ourselves being, we ain't Falcon. When we thinking of super, like, we ain't thinking of Falcon. We thinking of heritage. We're thinking of king, queenly, all that other stuff. No diss to Anthony Mackie or the Black Falcon, things like that. Like, we appreciate it, but it's just kind of like seeing ourselves being carried in that manner. And I was just sad not to have that, because you look at what Black Panther did, like seeing like, yo, we can ascend to this type of, like,
I think they tried to show like aspects of it with I don't know what tribe that was, the ape dude, whatever that dude's name. I can't think of his name. M'Baku. But I think they tried to show like aspects of that in that, but I felt like that it was very much so like secondary still to like that aspect of what you're saying. I think that plays a huge role in many concepts, and there's nothing wrong with black women leading, but I feel like that's already the narrative in a lot of our society is black women are leading society when it comes to movements, when it comes to raising kids, when it comes to like you see it's a lot more black women dominant. And to change that narrative, like you're saying, we have to show roles where black men can be leaders in a positive manner. Mm-hmm. Black men can be the center of change in a culture. And I think that to kind of combat what you're saying again is like a reflection of the original movie, Black Panther. So I have to agree with what you're saying, even though I don't like I don't dislike where they went with it. Yes.
I guess I'm coming at it from a perspective to talk about, because I actually really love how you brought that up. Now I feel like we're the backseat critics. We're like dissecting the movie and a lot of shit right now. Would you like to say that? Oh, okay. I want you to know you brought up a very good point, because, and this is kind of stemming from the last episode, and actually, like, stay with me, guys. Stay with me. Like, this person, I'm not going to air this person out, but they're, like, talking to me about, like, men in leadership. And I love how you brought that up, like, men in leadership, because there isn't a lot of positivity when it comes to, like, men in leadership. Because, let's look at this like this. If we look at, like, top 1%, they're all men and they're doing like diabolical things. Elon Musk, people have issues and problem with that, and it's kind of like we switch and flip the pendulum to like a Russell type of a dude, right? He's not doing Elon Musk stuff, but like he's helping his whole. And, like, that's where I'm like, we got to big up those dudes. So it was really good to – that's why just doubling down on your point. But to move things forward along, I came at it from a point because I didn't get spoiled about, like, man, we about to see all this stuff, and we're going to lose an aspect of that. And I want to at least just say that I was taken aback by Miss Angela Bassett. That acting, bro. I felt that hurt.
I think so. I had a conversation with someone about that too when they did that part, and like it carries on. That emotion carries on through the movie, where people were expressing like real emotion for this person, for Chadwick, and like. You seen it in the acting. You seen it in scenes where it was like deliberate reflection. Like you seen the real emotion. And I think that is also what made it so impactful is because it wasn't about just showing emotion for the character. It was actually showing real emotion for the person. So
no, 1,010%. I think that kind of helped me to like. I know people may disagree with me with this, and this is fine. But like one of my big things I hated with the MCU was, I think it was Endgames when they did the whole like woman blitz on Thanos. I was like, and they like I know why they did that, and I'm like, if you let the superheroes be the superheroes, you won't have to worry about that. Like they're gonna shine on their own way in their own light, and sometimes I feel like that was the issue with Phase 4. They were just like. In your face with it. Where like when you look at I think it's Miss Marvel. No, not Captain Marvel.
Miss Marvel,
the TV show on Disney Plus. Yeah, Miss Marvel. Whoever wrote that, and I know people. I feel like I got like a lot of mixed bags with that. They didn't throw in my face that she was a woman and she was a different heritage. Like they were saying stuff that was like. Over my head, like from that culture. I know it's not a Muslim culture, but like her name was Kamala, but like I was placed in there and they were like, figure it out, like get with the times, like figure it out what's going on. Like these are their issues. And that was one of the things I really appreciated about that because I learned about different culture. I learned about like this, I learned about that. And that's what I kind of felt with Black Panther, where I'm like, all right, they went with that route. They didn't force feed that down our throat. Where like, if you look at the Dons Lahal, the woman warriors, like that would make sense. You lose your king, they're going to take over. This like that, and it felt more. It didn't feel forced, and it felt good that Shuri was the person because in the comics she becomes a person, and then the motivation. It wasn't just like, all right, we just have to do this because. It was like, this was my brother. So this makes sense. It's not like, oh, and because I don't want to spoil other stuff because when that thing happened before the big fight, right? And she rolled up on everybody. And she was like, this is what it is, right? It just felt like, it just felt like it would be something where like, if I passed, my sister would be like, I got to do this for Robert.
Yeah.
It's not because my brother is a man. I'm doing this because that was my brother. And it felt real in that way. That's why I fuck with it so heavy.
So another part that I kind of go ahead. I'm gonna let you go first.
Sorry to interrupt. But to your point with Miss Marvel and I think it was Avengers Endgame where they had the women blitz, do you think that comes down to how Avengers Endgame only had male writers? It was Christopher something and I forget the Joe Russo, I think was the other guys. Whereas Miss Marvel, it's primarily women writers. Do you think
I did not know
that kind of
that.
plays into how they write the women in it? And do you think that kind of carries over to like the Black Panther with like who they have writing it?
That's a good point.
That's a hell of a really good point. I actually don't know. Again, I don't want to cap. I don't know. I guess I come at it from like a viewer standpoint, because let's just say that if we were introduced to those characters, right? If we were introduced to before they did like the women's blitz, right? I feel like we had more buildup about those characters because that story really wasn't about them. Like, granted, at the end of it, like it was everyone coming together, but it goes back to the 4 Avengers, or not 4, 5. You got Black Widow, you got Hawkeye, you have Captain, you have Cap, you have Thor. That story is really from their vantage point.
Spider-Man.
And like that was that core group, so like they're
Doctor
writing
Strange.
from their perspective. And I think that's where I'm coming at it from, where I'm kind of like, you really don't need to do that with Captain Marvel. And I'm not talking about Ms. Marvel. I'm talking about Captain Marvel, because she's literally the strongest person there without the Infinity Gauntlet. She doesn't need, like, it just felt forced. And I'm kind of like, for the writing that they have done, they could have did it in a way where, like, this makes sense. They did a lot of things that make sense. We're like, yeah, we're all trying to get this away from Thanos. And I just feel like that's, to me, in my opinion, it just felt forced. So I'm like, oh, I see what they're doing here. But if you look at the entire movie, when Black Widow and even Gamora was like, with the whole Thanos scene where it's kind of like, I gotta take out my baby girl, or Black Widow killing herself. Like, it wasn't hyper focused on Black Widow's a woman or Gamora is a woman. It was like these things these people had to do. And I think that, but once again, he said a point I agree and disagree with, where I'm like, it depends on the writers, because I watched a couple of She-Hulks and I was like, I'm going to say nothing more.
Yeah,
She-Hulk's a great show.
I didn't watch any of it. After I seen the twerk with Megan Thee Stallion thing, I was disinterested. But for me, another part of Black Panther that kind of I wish they could have expanded on was the not daydream. I don't want to spoil it for him.
The astral plane. It's anytime there's a Black Panther movie, there will be astral planing stuff.
So like when she went into the astral plane, basically.
Yes.
I felt like, and I was talking to my friend about it, and he's like, I guarantee you there's a director's cut there and an extended version where they actually add to that scene. Because I felt like there was a lot of things that were missing out of that scene. It was a great scene, but it really felt short from the impact that it could have had, to me, at least.
I think it was really good because you have to work with what you had, literally. I definitely think there was, because I think in the manuscript for Black Panther 2, before everything happened, it was going to be T'Challa missing years and him trying to keep up with what he missed, and then the ending part, right, that we're not going to talk about, that was already in there. It was just going to be in a different way because he missed some time.
Yeah.
So no, I could see what you say with that. I can agree to disagree with that. Like I enjoyed it because it made sense.
Don't get me wrong. Like I would go see the movie again. Like
I'll watch it again.
Like it's a great movie. I just felt like for 2.5 hours, I felt like they didn't want to make it 4 hours long. Like, so they took some stuff out that they could have expanded on. They could have explained a little bit more. They could have shown like aspects of really what happened, and even like the fight scene in the end. Like for me, it was like,
bro, you capping, bro. That fight scene was great. I don't know. Wow, you capping. That fight scene was great.
The scene itself, again, was very short, but I think the context of what this scene for me internalized was powerful.
We're doing such a great job of not trying to say the last part for RJ. We're doing if you've seen it, we're trying to not spoil it for RJ. We definitely should have said that.
It, like, for me, the impact of what happened in that scene so powerful. I think for me, it comes in context to a lot of what people talk about nowadays of being like black and brown and how.
Oh, you're talking about that aspect. Okay, yeah. I thought you were talking about just the. Okay, yeah.
And well, that's what I pulled out of it. And so like that concept of black and brown and what black and brown can do for you, and to that extent of like how working together is a lot more powerful than working against each other.
Yeah.
And just in that whole mindset and that for me is what like made me enjoy that scene a little bit more. But it seemed very short. It seemed very like to the point. It seemed very like to the aspects. And then it's even for me, I had a thought like for her, she was so cutthroat on this aspect of revenge that she risked her people, and he was so cutthroat on revenge that he was willing to die. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, for me, it was when we don't see the reality of the situations we face, there's consequences on both sides. And
1,010%.
which is a real statement, but it showed for me a reflection in this movie in that scene. You know what I'm saying? So like, yeah.
I think what a lot of people get twisted is no matter what we do in life, there's always consequences.
Mm-hmm.
I say this a lot in my line of work. I always say that we as people try to run away from the negative consequences of things so often, because I say sometimes when I go downstairs and I walk down and out my door, there's actually a positive association, there's a negative association, and there's a negative outcome. It could be as minimal as I'm losing, ligament, like cartilage on my knees. Like, even though it's minor, like that's mileage off my body just going out the door. The positive is I'm going to be on time for work. The neutrality of it is, I can go there. But, like, I feel like as a people, we try to escape the negative outcomes. And you have to open yourself. To all the possible outcomes. And just speaking more to, to the movie, speaking about Namor, because I definitely want to get back to, Angela and Shuri, because I feel like, and the other stuff about the other women too on there, that was pretty dope. That I got to talk about.
Super dope.
But we haven't talked about Namor. That boy can act. Let me tell you, Namor and his chick, even though I think they got a little relationship, she was a dog. Let me tell you, she was like, he's like, my lord, what you talking about? Yeah. We gotta go do this. She was about that motherfucking action. Absolutely. She was about that motherfucking action.
So you're talking about the ending.
Yeah, I'm talking. But even still, she was always on that non-fuck shit.
But again, so we go back to this concept, right, of women, right, and leading the charge, like taking the aggression, taking that aspect of like, which I feel is crazy because working with youth, I feel like our women are more hands-on when it comes to nowadays fighting. When it used to be men, women fight more nowadays than dudes do.
I'm confused. How does working with me make you realize that?
No. Not working with you.
Yeah, we about to. Hey, look here, y'all. Close up. Last episode I just talked about I'll be doing this shit. You see what this nigga be doing? He trying to be say shit. Look here, my mama raised the real one. Stop.
No. I'm not saying working with you. I said this movie. I was talking about the movie. What the hell?
Okay, I was about to say.
I said again. We talk about this aspect behind like women, right? And this this whole concept of leadership and power and taking initiative and Neymar's person, right?
Yeah,
was ready. She was about that action. The women on Wakanda's side, they were about that action. And, like, I feel like nowadays when we look at working with kids, the girls fight more than the boys fight. The boys is going to grab guns and trying to shoot each other. The girls is putting their fist up and they swinging on each other. So I feel like, I don't know. It's not.
I can't argue with your feelings.
But I feel like it's a aspect of society that we live in kind of now, and it's like appropriating this whole sense of like women in these like power ideal roles, which is not it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's just it's interesting for me, like putting that concept together. I don't know.
I definitely disagree. I don't know. I think I just need more numbers. I just see a lot more people hurting people when it comes to like women or I should say women, little girls, little boys. I don't think it's like, I will say this. Yeah, men have more tendency, I feel like, for violence when it comes to like mass shootings, etc., and things like that. But all right, yeah, we got fact checking. Yeah, fact checking works.
Sorry to interrupt again. So per Statistica, in 2005, just shy of 2 million violent crimes were committed by men, and about 1,378 were committed by female. And now in 2021, last year in 2021, about 1,400,000 were committed by males, and 1,200,000 were committed by females. So it's been declining, but
Males are still
males are still ahead,
Yeah.
but it's been dropping at a faster rate than female.
I wasn't talking
Right.
about like violence as a whole.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
talking more physical violence.
I-
And I feel like working with youth, I see more girls fighting than boys fighting. I feel like boys nowadays don't fight. They'd rather pick up a gun or they talk about it and don't really. I feel like girls are the ones that are going now to pull a girl hair out the bathroom, beat them up, or whatever the case may be. And I've seen it was probably hands down out of the 60 fights that I seen or 40 fights I seen last year working in high school, a good 30 of them were girl fights and not dude fights.
Well, I can't speak to that because it's been a minute since I've been to school. When I go into schools, it's definitely different. I'm seeing differently, and I see and observe different things. But I still say once again, I conflate it to like violent, video games too as well. Where like there's a good side of representation and there's the bad side of representation. But I definitely think seeing, like, it's a good thing to see women in these type of roles. It's good to see them in these types of like combat things. I'm
not shying away from. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
Oh no, I don't think you are, but I just want to make sure I'm just just reiterating that it's good. And once again, I think it goes back and falls onto what you said before. It's all about like your parenting and things like that. But it's really good to see those things in film. But I do kind of want to switch up to really quick, just to like overarching good concept, because obviously Angela Davis did a good job. Bassett, my bad. Angela Davis.
I know what you're talking about.
Exactly. But one of the concepts that I feel like really good, they did a really good job talking about, and you definitely did, I was going to bring up, was about the racial component, was pretty good about black and brown folks and, working together and things like that. One of the components I really feel they really did a good job about is talking about death. I feel like we do a poor job in this culture of talking about death, where like I've thought about like the things that mean to me, about like if I pass, or how I want people to remember me, because them, and this is in the trailer, RJ, them dressed in white and them having that celebration. I feel like if we as a society have that disconnect from like the process, not just speaking from Christianity, but just like that energy that Sherry was feeling and her reluctancy to understanding death was a big part, where I'm like, how many people in our society have this and I'm actually a problem too with this as well, where like we gotta keep working, we gotta do this, and we forget that we're already doing a lot. Like I know I mentioned here before, like you're doing something beyond your 9 to 5, and you're truly living your dream. The adoration and all that stuff will come. I think we just gotta smell the roses and like appreciate the people we have here. And that this movie just kind of reminded me of like everyone's striving to get here, get over here. And then the one part I can't say about, we can't tell him about, is like the reason why certain decisions was made. So that didn't happen until it was ready. If you know what I mean. It being like, that's such a top tier, big adult like thinking. We're like, I want this opportunity for you to have, so you know that this is as important as you running a country.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? I'm like, because that's gonna happen. But you knowing yourself, different thing. You appreciating family, you appreciating life. So that's one of the things. So Black Panther 2 for me was such a really good movie. Made me think about a lot of different things.
I also want to talk. I'm trying to like put it in my head so I don't spoil it.
Yes.
So I want to bring back and reflip to an episode that I talked about here on my
Brace yourself.
Play No Games. What I was playing No Games with. I was talking about the Ancient Aliens thing on Netflix, right? Well, this movie does a great job of reflecting on one of the episodes in that series, talking about Latin America and their deities and stuff like that, and it reflected in this movie. And so for me, that aspect too was a huge like cultural piece for me, which also brought me to the understanding, because there's a part in the beginning of the movie, I think a lot of people missed it, where they were talking about Mali.
The drug?
Huh?
The drug?
No. The country.
Bali?
Mali.
Okay, I never heard.
In Africa.
Okay.
The country in Africa.
I would have failed that test.
You would have failed that test. And that is where Wakanda takes place. Masa Musa.
Oh, okay, there we go. I'm familiar with that.
Masa Musa, richest man to ever live, was the emperor of Mali. And so for me, that historical context of, I think what Wakanda represented was this same aspect of Masa Musa in his reign, but also this Latin America character that Neymar plays, Kute Khan, who was this person that really gave life to Latin folks. So I think it was this whole aspect of cultural identity, but also cultural history, empowerment, and like this whole mindset for me of like recognizing where you come from. And that for me was like it made the movie more intriguing. Like it was like, oh man, I have to go see the first one again, because all this content makes so much sense. What?
No, I'm listening.
Yeah. That's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to bring that cultural aspect of things to the conversation, because I think it was very important without spoiling the movie for our dad.
Yes. Well, I think he can see that that they're Latin people under the sea.
I didn't say all that, but
they are, you know.
Yeah.
But y'all, if y'all haven't seen Black Panther, like obviously you go see the first one, but in all honesty, no disrespect, I don't think you need to see the first one. But if you really want to get a really good concept of like some of the things that we deal with as a culture right now when it comes to understanding the importance of women empowerment, rage, togetherness, is real good movie. But what are we at with time? Right, 40 minutes? All right, okay. All right. I do have one other thing, but I definitely want to.
Go ahead.
All right. It's a double whammy. Speaking of powerful women, your friends got jokes. Your friends got jokes. Your friends got jokes. I'm gonna bring up someone we should definitely be. I'm not even gonna say what I just saw, but it was ridiculous. It was not kid appropriate. It feels wild. As we transition, I saw something. No, I'll tell you guys in a moment. So no, people can hear that. Where's this at? Okay. So some context for this is Michelle Obama and fact check. Michelle Obama's writing a book, and it's more of like a relationship book between her and Barack, and she recently came out with this and this Instagram clip that kind of pilfered the internet ethos for a little bit, and I saw a lot of people retweeting this, so I'm definitely gonna allow people to hear this.
Marriage, if I were to judge it in year 5 or year 10, there was never 50-50. And so, yeah, there were times when I felt like I was 70% in and he was doing 30% because of the choices that I made in the terms of how I wanted our family to look. Yeah. I had to take my foot off of my career gas pedal, never putting on the brake, but slowing up a little bit. Those are the natural compromises that are required. And I feel bad when I see young people giving up on their relationships because there are periods of hard. So I think it's important for us to be honest in those conversations, not to glamorize what a partnership feels like, because then young people quit too soon.
So I'm gonna also go to her page, but as I'm going to her page, because I want to also pull a quote of what she actually said about her book. I'm just curious, what are you guys' thoughts just hearing what Michelle said about relationships?
I think we talk a lot about that on this show. I think that's what makes this show so unique. It's the sense of communication and work, and this whole concept of like it's not always 50-50. It's not always 100. Like it's not. There'll be times where I can only give you 20%, and are you willing to give me 80? There'll be times where I'm giving you 100%, and you can't give me anything. But how do we have, like she's saying, how do we have that conversation and motivation to keep through those moments of uncertainty, of hardship, of drainage? Like, how do we continue that fight because we know what's on the flip side of that, or we know what's on the other end? Because those moments that we are both able to get 50-50 will be a lot more successful than if we just gave up, you know? Which I think is very huge. And I think it's something that you quote unquote go back to an old school relationship with. But nowadays it's needed. It's needed, very much so.
1,010%. Andrew, can you look up Michelle Obama's book that's coming out? So this was, or actually, can you do two things? I'm going to pull up my phone, and you can just do a close-up, because I want to show the picture, and then I'm going to read something while you look for that up. So this picture is something that I saw. Oh, can you see it? Or kind of, sort of? Look at us. Look at us. Oh, I can lighten it up. Okay, this picture right here is something that was circulating around the internet. There was this a lot on. We'll do it like this. Mute my mic for a second. Oh, we getting better. Next year we're gonna have that. I'm gonna get like a selfie stick. I'm working with it, y'all. But once you get that situated, look that. Could you look up Michelle Obama's latest book? But that picture, whoever's watching it on visuals, that's what's something I was seeing a lot of people just retweet because she said this. She said, and this is a bit long-winded, but I have to say this to make a point because I want to use her word. She says, as an adult, I've lived in a number of places, but as far as I'm concerned, I've only ever had one real home. My home is my family. My home is Barack. But here's the thing. Our marriage has never been perfectly 50-50. One of us is always needing more or giving more. We have been willing to listen to each other honestly and without defensiveness. Only then can we evolve together. Over the years, and this is the part I fucking really love, and I feel like a lot of people just over their heads. Over the years, a lot of young people have asked me about marriage, and my response usually goes something like this. You have to prepare yourself for long stretches of discord and discomfort. You have to learn how to make real compromise in a way you've lived, as an individual. Glamorizing a relationship while you're dating will lead you straight to difficulty once you're married. You can't paper over problems when you're living with someone day in and day out. So you've got to ask yourself, what are you trying to get out of this relationship? Have you truly thought it through? Do you want a wedding or do you want a lifelong partnership? There are two very different things. Together, you are answering the question, who are we and who do we want to be? Now I don't need to read that point. And what's the name of, is it a particular book? I know this.
The Light We Carry.
Yeah, The Light We Carry. I'm actually going to get that book and read that book because I think Barack and Michelle do a really good job of like showing people what a relationship is. And here's the thing. I know I talked to a lot of people about like, oh, you can't be like a Jay-Z and Beyonce. Barack and Michelle didn't have nothing. So they thrust it into this, right? And the reason why I say that they're a really good example is like they're talking values and stuff that people can do at this level, at our level. They're not saying like you got to go and do this. Is not. They're speaking at a frequency that anyone could take nutrients from that. But overall, my issue with why I want to talk about this today is I saw a lot of people just screenshot that and be like, goals, this is giving, I need this, I need that. And I'm like, you're not listening to what she's saying. You're glamorizing. You know how many times people, because y'all bring this up, glamorizing like, oh, when I get my man or I get my girl, it's going to be like this. People are not preparing for the long stretches of, I despise this person. I fucking hate you. If you leave your thong on the kitchen table again, that's the shit that's why I'm so passionate about this shit. Because people don't understand the rough patches.
Yeah.
Let's keep it real. Let's keep it a buck, y'all. When we get into relationships, how often are we thinking about like, all right, this shit gonna be tough?
Man, and you don't. And I think that was one thing I felt like put me ahead of my time when it came to relationships and why I have such an old school mentality when it comes to a lot of things, because I always talked about the work. I always talked about there's going to be issues. We're not going to see eye to eye. We're not going to be on the same page for everything. But it's about the work. It's about that process that's going to make us grow. So now we understand each other. Now we learn about each other. Like I always say it. You're two individuals coming together. An individual. But I think the most important piece to that is if you're not an individual, it's going to be hard to be in a relationship if you're not an individual, because you don't know what you like. You don't know what you prefer. You don't know which direction you want to go with your life. So how are you going to have somebody help you, direct you when you don't know where you're going? It's going to make it very hard. So I think that is a huge piece of what I'm learning, of course, still in my life as I get older and want my partner to be whoever she is, and but that is what Michelle is saying is like I think a major key to just the life and reality that we live and we face, and especially for young single people today. I think it's a huge burden. I think a lot of people don't want to see.
I think I'm gonna start saying it how she says it from now on. We glamorize hyper independency. We glamorize that, oh, I'm a player, blah, 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 blah. Like, beginning of the podcast, I was telling y'all, Bob Gill, he doing some stuff, Cartier Bob out here living, but I definitely wanted to be authentic with y'all, being like, yeah, I'm on Captain America. I'm on that tip. Like, I'm actively trying to do that because I feel like people glamorize, like, I'm this big bad person, or I'm this big bad dude, I can do all these different things. I'm like, nah. I'm trying to show someone something that's fake. I'm like, yeah, I don't need to, there's a way for me to say that I take care of all my bills and I'm content. I have space for another person to build on something. I don't need to go look at this bust down, look at this look at how many people I have influence over, things like that. And that glamorization is what is killing us as a culture and society. And my thing is, like, how can we lead with more vulnerability and more intentions? Because I see that all over. Because I got, like, this small thing I want to throw at y'all at the end to close it up. But I'm curious because, once again, we got to give props and not to out our friend. I don't know if you were picking up the mic, but did you have some thoughts after I read that, or was I wrong?
I think one thing I think that people need to think about with marriage in this situation too, especially, or I should say, the advice that I got on my wedding day was to look at the trees, and there's like a woodsy area where I got married, and if you look at the trees, you realize the trees fall on each other and keep each other up. In the woods, trees will fall on each other, and the other trees will keep the other tree up from falling. So, I mean, of course, other trees hit the ground, but
that's what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking.
But you do see it though.
They're like, fuck that tree over there.
Other trees will fall on the other trees, and they stay. It keeps each other up, and that's kind of what marriage is that you're the other tree keeping the other tree up. So you have to think about keeping the other person up.
Go ahead.
No,
Cartier Bob.
It's Cartier, but no, you about to say that? No, go.
I wasn't about to say anything.
No, I just think I want, just like we're trying to break generational curses, we gotta break cultural curses, and that is, like, it is cool to be in a relationship. It's cool to, like, not glamorize, like, yeah, you can. It's just like, I just think of, like, a lot of different things of, like, okay, I'll shift to this. I think a perfect way for us to kind of end today is because I get a lot of questions, and I'm pretty sure you guys deal with this too as well, where it's kind of like, what's too much? Where, like, I feel like a lot of people get caught in the in-between of, like, what's something that you can work through? Because she talked about working through the hard patches and hard times. And I think people sometimes get that confused of, like, what's tolerating of rough patch versus disrespect. And I feel like people don't understand what the lines of what's disrespectful and what's tolerance of, like, I'm going to a bad patch with my partner. And I feel like it would be a dope way to end the show as males, as men, to talk about, not just from, like, a male perspective, just the representation just of guys talking about what was a rough patch. And obviously you don't have to speak. I'm putting people on the spot. What was, like, a rough patch that you dealt with that you didn't think was, a rough patch, but you're through it, versus, or we can do it like this. What do you think is something you should tolerate in a rough patch, or what is something you shouldn't tolerate in a rough patch? We can go either way. So I kind of want to leave it open-ended in that way. And while y'all thinking, I'll go first. I think for me, and I'm thinking from, like, my personal experience, I will say this: emotional maturity is such a big thing, and a lot. And in my line of work, 'cause I keep always saying this, and how can I say this? Because I really don't want to make it about this person. I'm thinking back to a situation where, or I'm thinking about to a situation where I'm gonna use RJ's tree analogy. I, in a relationship, needed for another person to lean. I needed someone to lean on, and not in a way, the stereotypical way of like, oh, I need to man dump on my partner or things like that. But like the important. And this is why. This is why men can't talk about feelings. You see, you get around people that make fun of you. See, I can't be. I'm not fucking. I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you. I'm fucking with you.
Sorry.
I would say being able to notice when a partner, the difference between projection and listening. That's two different things. Two big things. What a lot of people understand, a projection is when someone's taking a feeling and they're putting it on you. I can go down the gambit and be like, oh, that's displacement. I can tell you guys about defense mechanisms. But like a projection is like if I'm anxious about a test and I'm like, wow, you're sipping that water kind of suspiciously, or you're not hydrated. Like I'm putting my anxiety onto this person. And I think as a person, doesn't have to be a guy, you have to know the difference between someone having a projective or projecting their insecurities onto you versus what's going on in the situation. And I think being able to understand projection rather than someone needing support, being like, hey, this is a difficult time for me. You can show up differently. You're going to show up to the person differently if they're like, yo, I need this from you because this is not going on, because this is how I'm feeling, and I need support with that, rather than you're not doing these things. Trigger alert, I don't know if people are triggered by that, because sometimes people say, like, you're not enough, or you could be doing more of these things. So I would say understanding the difference between projection and true support is a big thing.
Man, just to kind of like talk on that, I think it's huge understanding yourself, and I think not getting that emotional aspect mixed up, though. I think with projection, some people see projection and say you're projecting, instead of recognizing that this person actually might be coming to you as a place of concern and a sense of conversation. And to lower that sense of heightenedness, maybe they are projecting, but it's for you to catch and now have that conversation so that projection can go away, and now I can feel comfortable with whatever sense of direction is coming forward. But anyway, for me, that's hard.
Hey, if you don't have an answer, no pressure.
It just, for me, I think communication, clear communication. And of course, like, you always have your moments of like emotional influx and being in certain ways and feeling certain types of ways, but I think it's based off of learning about yourself, right? Like, if you talked about trigger words, things that make you feel a certain type of way. How do you approach a conversation even knowing that those buttons might get pushed? And like, how can we still be able to be into a room together and have that conversation so that we can grow for one another? It's not even like for individual growth specifically. It can, but how do we sit and be able to get through the bullshit so that the clear communication becomes easy for us to have? And even if it's like, look, motherfucker, you didn't listen to me today. You didn't hear what I said. I think for me, in my perspective, I'd rather hear that than someone saying like, well, he never listens to me, and talking to someone else and having that conversation through someone else. Because now our relationship is gone and you're going to someone else to clear the communication up that we could have had and making our relationship grow so that I can be more diligent about being a clear listener, being present.
And that comes from radical honesty, because if you're being honest with yourself, because I want to use what you're saying, where like if you know you're getting a situation and you know you're going to hear less when people say these things because that's something that you're working on, you're walking into that conversation disingenuous. You're setting already a 10 situation already on 10. Being like, all right, we know communication is important. The dark side of it is knowing that I'm so angry at this person and knowing that maybe we should not talk right now. Or maybe when we talk, we gotta have these parameters. I feel like that is what Michelle's talking about. We're talking about that glamorizing, where like what's glamorizing and what's actually sitting down. And like you're saying, what's the point of us being together? Like that's not talked about that often. Like what's our goal?
Yep.
Everyone's goal is to go to Tulum. Everyone's goal is not to like, all right, I missed hearing you, or like my partner keeps saying that I'm not understanding. When have you sat down and truly radically sat with yourself, not tried to be right and be like, all right, let me see what this person is saying, even if I agree or disagree. And then before I even go, being like, I heard you say this. Is that right? All right, cool. Do you feel hurt? And I feel like that's where people don't go into conversations, that radical honesty. Because I'll say this, working with ADHD, right? People who have ADHD, right? And they're inattentive. Being able to radically say, like, I'm not paying attention. You, obviously, they do enough times. You have grace. You say you have grace, but it's kind of like, we got to have that for ourselves, where I'm like, I'm not genuinely in this conversation. And that comes from radical honesty. But, bro, the show is changing. I'm in my bag today. I don't think he has anything. Oh, he has anything?
I think you guys kind of hit it on the head at the communication part. So I mean, that's what I would have gone through. So I just say, don't be childish. Keep it honest, and don't do cheap shots.
That's in Terry Real's 5 losing strategies of a marriage, wanting to be right and being right and like childish. I see that being together.
Oh, there's no. So there's a wrong on both sides. Always, just no. There's no both rights. You're wrong both sides, no matter what. So if you have something to apologize for, the other person has something to apologize back to you. 100%. Always happens, even if it's a little thing. Maybe you did a big thing. They have something little to apologize for because of how they reacted. 100%.
I think that's huge. Because a lot of times people like have the expectation that they're right, and they might be right, but don't realize the concept in which they might have said something. Like, no, I'm fucking right. Like, why do we have to take it there? Like, why do we have to get this emotionally invested into this conversation that it's a simple yes and I'm sorry?
And it makes the other person feel better too, because they otherwise feel like a big jerk in the end, and they feel like they did everything wrong. But in reality, if you apologize as well too, then you both come out of a fight with something.
I ain't apologizing. I gotta do something wrong. I ain't throwing out apologies like that. But I will say this: I do acknowledge where I'm like, it's not for me personally, because I don't know. Sometimes, like if a person's like, I need to hear you just apologize, then I'm like, okay, whatever. But I'm just kind of like right off the rip, I definitely want to be like, I acknowledge where this could have been that for you, but like, no, like I feel like there's power in like I've wronged you, like there's black and white situations. Because at the end of the day, if I wronged a person, I want them to know that I'm coming to them with so much gratitude, even in a agree or disagree situation where I'm like, this may have not been my intention, but I'm not going to ignore my impact type of shit. But I just feel like, just for me, where it's kind of like, it's modeling, where like, it's important to let your man know that, bro, I fell short, my bad. It's okay. It's important to let your girl know that, you know, I fucked up. I did this, like, and like, it's something powerful sitting in, I was wrong. Because you're both right. You shouldn't shame a person for being wrong. If you're shaming them, how can they grow? How can they learn? How can they do better? AJ, bro, you showed up late. I don't know how many times I told you not to show. Bro, I'm disappointed you showed up late to the show, my man. Like, what can we do? Like, don't get me wrong. We trying to run a tight shit over here, you know what I'm saying? But, like, what can we do? Like, yeah, I'm disappointed, but at the end of the day, how do we move on from this? He's going to come to this conversation different. He's still probably going to feel saddened, all that other stuff, but I'm sitting with him with it. I'm acknowledging that that's not cool, but I'm also acknowledging that there's some shit I may not know.
I don't know why that made me think of this, but for me, it's been like I've had this like euphoric moment with my dogs. I have a dog. For those that don't know,
Bro, he coming at me, women, dogs. What you trying to say?
No. This is positive. No, so like, I have this relationship with my dog, and I had this euphoric moment in which like they always talk about with dogs that like you reward them for the good things that they do and don't acknowledge them for the bad things that they do. And how I grew up watching a dog being raised was reward them for the good things, let them know the bad things that they're doing, and I understood the dynamic. Well, my dog, there was this period of time last week where me and him kind of ruffle feathers. He's going through the process of growing. He's almost a year old. He's starting to come through that coming his own stage, and so he's drastically changing. He didn't listen to me, didn't eat his food, didn't drink his water, and it hurt me emotionally. Didn't hurt the dog. I didn't put my hands on the dog. I didn't choke no dog out. I didn't kick no dog. I ain't abused no dog, nothing. He had food. He had water. But for me, it hit me emotionally, like, to the point where, like, I went on a walk and I cried, bro. Like, I was like that emotionally because I was trying to figure out what I was doing wrong, and I wasn't doing anything wrong. He's going through change. He's becoming a different dog. And there's aspects of his change that I have to adjust to and get used to, a part of this relationship of growing to become a better person to one another, a companion to one another. And I think it's a reflection on relationships of like, as we go through relationships and as we change and become different people because of the situations that someone else or something else carries on to us, we have to recognize the change. We have to recognize the change, acknowledge the change, but then figure out how can we grow to become something new. And it helped. My dog is back to being his exciting self. He does some things a little bit different now, but like, I think for me, the impact of allowing myself to emotionally check into the situation allowed me to respect him emotionally. Allow him to change and allow him to grow. And I think that's what we have to do for relationships is allow someone to change, emotionally grow, and reflect that. Like, I know dogs can't speak, but like, I think that aspect of understanding becomes with communication and comes with time and comes with patience and comes with all these other things that people talk about. But yeah, I don't know. I just had to kind of bring that up.
Hey man, do what you gotta do. Well, and I will just say also end with this and just say, be accountable, acknowledge that you fucking up, telling someone you fucked up, and genuinely making sustainable change will do leagues for any type of relationship. But with all that being said, we don't have any last on. Okay, stop. Oh gosh, we don't have any of that. But as we close down the year, we're getting closer to our favorite yearly segment where we reflect about the year That's coming up pretty soon. We got a pretty speaking of Marvel stuff, we're gonna go through a multiverse pretty soon. We're gonna be combining with a podcast pretty soon, another fellow podcast. We're gonna be fusing. You know, we're gonna have our own Infinity Wars. You know, I'm gonna step out like Chadwick. We have. Oh no, the Black Falcon said on your left, but I'm still gonna step out like Black Panther. We're like, hey, we here. We're about to go to a new universe. Thanos is running amok. We about to join the other Avengers. I'm talking about you guys. That is such a great fucking relationship.
Mm-hmm. Before we get out of here, I have a question for the fans, for the people listening, for those that listen day in and day out. Think to yourself this one thing: if I can change the world or change a relationship in my life, how would I do it, and why would I do it? You know, respond in our comments. Respond in a message. You can hit me personally and respond. But I really want this show to bring an impact on you as an individual. We are here to give you a better mindset, put you on a higher vibration, and elevate you a little bit more. You know, that's what we're here to do. But it takes the relationship that you have with yourself and the relationship we have with ourselves to grow. And I think that's going to help both of us grow just a little bit more.
And without further ado, it's Cartier Bob.
It's Arthur. Make sure you like, subscribe, hit the bell. Because we'll be in your eardrums. And we out. Peace.
Probably wondering if I think of you. Sorry, I'm for the bag right now. Yeah, I'm for the bag right now. Yeah, for the bag that I never had. Yeah, you probably mad right now. Yeah, I got a 2-piece now. Shit, I think they call them groupies now.